In this video, we explore the lives of the greatest knights in medieval history, warriors who became legends through their skill, strategy, and unbreakable will. These knights were more than just fighters. They were leaders who shaped the course of history through epic battles, daring conquests, and unwavering loyalty. From battlefield tactics to political intrigue, their stories are filled with triumphs, betrayals, and moments that changed the medieval world forever. Our first knight is often called the greatest knight who ever lived, and for good reason. Born in 1147, William Marshal was not destined for greatness. He was the son of a minor noble, and at just 5 years old, he was taken hostage during a civil war between King Stephen and Empress Matilda. His father refused to ransom him, coldly stating, "I still have the hammer and anvil to forge more sons." Most would have perished, but William survived, a sign of the resilience that would define his life. As a young knight, William Marshal made his name not in war but in tournaments. Brutal, no-holds-barred combat events that were far more dangerous than the refined jousting of later centuries. He won an unbelievable 500 tournaments, making him one of the most formidable warriors of his time. His skill earned him a place in the court of Henry II, where he trained the king's sons, including the future Richard the Lionheart. His loyalty and prowess made him indispensable, and as the years passed, his influence only grew. His most famous moment came in 1216, when England was on the verge of collapse. King John had died, France had invaded, and civil war raged. At the age of 70, an age when most knights had long retired, Marshal led England's forces to victory at the Battle of Lincoln, securing the kingdom's survival. He was then appointed as regent for the young King Henry III, ruling England in his stead. To this day, he remains one of the most respected figures in English history, a true knight's knight, a king who spent more time on the battlefield than on his throne. Richard I of England, better known as Richard the Lionheart, was one of the most celebrated knights of the medieval era. Born in 1157, Richard was the son of Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine, two of the most powerful rulers in Europe. Unlike his brothers, who schemed and plotted for political power, Richard excelled in one thing: warfare. By the time he was 16, he was leading his own armies, and he quickly gained a reputation as an unmatched warrior and tactician. Richard's defining moment came during the Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, when he led Christian forces against the great Muslim leader Saladin. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Richard's strategic brilliance led to a string of victories. At the Battle of Arsuf, his forces crushed Saladin's troops, proving his dominance on the battlefield. Even Saladin himself admired Richard's courage, famously sending him fresh horses and medical supplies when he was wounded. Their battles became the stuff of legend, a duel between two of the greatest military minds of the medieval world. But Richard's story was not just one of triumph, it was also one of tragedy. After the crusade, he was captured and held for ransom by the Holy Roman Emperor. His subjects were forced to pay an enormous sum for his release, a total of 150,000 marks, or roughly 3 years' worth of England's total revenue. Upon returning to England, he spent just a few months there, before setting off on yet another war. His life was cut short in 1199, when he was struck by a crossbow bolt during a minor skirmish. He died at the age of 41, leaving behind a legacy of valor and military excellence that few could match. Not all great knights came from Europe. In the Middle East, one man stood out as one of the most brilliant military minds of the medieval era: Baybars, the Mamluk warrior king of Egypt. Born in 1223, Baybars was originally a Kipchak Turk from the steppes of Central Asia. Captured by Mongol raiders and sold into slavery, he was taken to Egypt, where he was trained as a Mamluk warrior, an elite class of slave soldiers who would go on to rule Egypt. Baybars quickly rose through the ranks, proving himself to be an unstoppable force on the battlefield. His greatest victories came against two of the most feared enemies of the age, the Mongols and the Crusaders. In 1260, Baybars led the Mamluk army against the Mongols at the Battle of Ain Jalut, one of the most significant battles in history. The Mongols, who had already destroyed the Abbasid Caliphate and conquered vast territories, seemed invincible. But Baybars used deception and tactical brilliance to lure the Mongol forces into an ambush, then unleashed a devastating counterattack that annihilated their army. This battle was the first major defeat of the Mongols in open combat, proving that they were not invincible, and halting their westward expansion into the Islamic world. This victory secured Baybar's place as one of the greatest strategists of the medieval period. With the Mongols repelled, Baybars turned his attention to the Crusaders. Over the next decade, he systematically dismantled the Crusader states, launching sieges and campaigns that reclaimed key territories. His most famous victory came in 1268, when he captured Antioch, one of the last remaining Crusader strongholds in the Levant. Unlike previous conquerors, he showed no mercy. Antioch's population was massacred, and the city was left in ruins, ensuring that the Crusaders could never reclaim it. Baybars continued to rule Egypt as Sultan until his death in 1277, solidifying his legacy as the greatest Mamluk warrior king and a champion of the Islamic world. His victories reshaped the balance of power in the Middle East, ensuring that the Crusades would never again threaten the region. Most knights relied on their physical strength and sight to win battles, but Jan Žižka proved that a great mind was the most powerful weapon of all. Born in 1360 in Bohemia, modern-day Czech Republic, Žižka's early life is shrouded in mystery, but he likely grew up as a minor noble or a mercenary. By the early 1400s, he became a key military leader in the Hussite Wars, a revolutionary conflict in which Bohemian rebels, followers of the religious reformer Jan Hus, fought against the Catholic Church and the Holy Roman Empire. Žižka's leadership would turn an underdog rebellion into an unstoppable military force that reshaped Central European warfare. Žižka was a master of tactical innovation. Realizing that his forces, mostly commoners, peasants, and former mercenaries, stood no chance against the heavily armored knights of the Holy Roman Empire in open combat, he pioneered the use of wagon fortresses, Tabor tactics. These were wooden war wagons armed with crossbowmen, gunners, and spearmen, capable of withstanding cavalry charges and artillery barrages. His strategy turned simple carts into mobile defensive bastions, allowing poorly equipped soldiers to crush elite European knights. His forces also became some of the earliest adopters of gunpowder weapons, using primitive firearms and hand cannons to devastate enemy ranks. Under Žižka's command, the Hussites won every major battle they fought against superior imperial forces. Žižka's legend grew even greater when he lost one eye in battle, but continued to fight. Later, he was blinded completely, yet his military genius remained unmatched. Even without sight, he continued leading troops to victory, using only his sense of strategy and experienced advisors. He never lost a single battle, an achievement few commanders in history can claim. When he died in 1424, it is said that he ordered his skin to be flayed and turned into a war drum, so he could lead his men into battle even after death. Whether fact or legend, Žižka's name became synonymous with invincibility. Today, he is remembered as one of the greatest generals in medieval history, a man who proved that true vision comes not from the eyes but from the mind. Born in 1330, Edward of Woodstock, better known as the Black Prince, was one of the most feared warriors of the 100 Years' War. He was the eldest son of King Edward III of England, and from a young age, he was trained in the art of war. By the time he was just 16 years old, he was already leading troops into battle. His defining moment came at the Battle of Crécy in 1346, where he commanded the English forces against a much larger French army. Using longbowmen and superior tactics, he helped secure one of England's most decisive victories. His leadership and bravery on the battlefield earned him immense respect from both his allies and his enemies. 10 years later, in 1356, Edward led English forces at the Battle of Poitiers, facing off against King John II of France. Once again, the English were outnumbered, but the Black Prince's masterful use of terrain and defensive tactics turned the tide of battle. His archers devastated the advancing French knights, and when the enemy ranks faltered, Edward led a direct cavalry charge that shattered their lines. By the end of the battle, the English had captured King John II himself, a victory that crippled France politically and financially. This triumph solidified Edward's reputation as one of the greatest military leaders of his time, and he became the most feared knight in Europe. Despite his brilliance in battle, Edward never became king. In his later years, he suffered from a severe and mysterious illness, possibly dysentery or nephritis, which gradually weakened him. Though he continued to command armies, his health deteriorated, and he died in 1376, just 1 year before his father. His death left England without its greatest warrior, and his young son, Richard II, would later struggle to maintain the strength his father had built. Though he never wore the crown, Edward the Black Prince remains one of the most revered knights in English history, a warrior whose strategic genius and courage shaped the fate of Europe. Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, better known as El Cid, was a knight who fought for both Christian and Muslim rulers during medieval Spain's turbulent wars of conquest. Born in 1043, he came of age during the Reconquista, a period of constant warfare between Christian kingdoms in the north and Muslim caliphates in the south. He quickly made a name for himself as a fearsome warrior, earning the title El Cid, meaning the Lord, from his Muslim allies. After being exiled by his own king, El Cid became a mercenary, selling his services to the highest bidder. He commanded both Christian and Muslim troops, and in 1094 he achieved his greatest victory, the conquest of Valencia. Rather than ruling as a vassal, he took control of the city himself, becoming an independent ruler. His leadership transformed Valencia into a multi-ethnic, thriving city-state. For 5 years, he defended it against waves of attacks, proving his unmatched skill as a strategist. El Cid's legend only grew after his death. According to myth, during his final battle, his men strapped his dead body to his horse and sent it charging into the enemy ranks. Believing he had risen from the grave, the enemy panicked and fled, securing his final victory. Whether fact or fiction, his name remains one of the most revered in Spanish history, a knight whose reputation transcended life itself. And there we have it. The age of knights may be long gone, but their stories still live on. These warriors shaped history in ways that can't be forgotten, through battle, strategy, and sheer determination. But what truly defines a great knight? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this journey through medieval history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for more epic stories from the past.